Hello everyone, welcome back to Drawn by Annie channel. This is me, Annie, and I will be drawing for you today. Grab your tea, coffee and snacks and let's dive into today's video. Today I'm going to work on a style study case, especially the coloring and lining phase, as the sketch was already done in part 1. And the character you're seeing right now is InuYasha. He's a character from an older show with the same name, InuYasha, and it was originally published, I think it started in the 90s and continued in zeros, and it was very iconic style, and I was also mentioning this in the previous video. I never watched the show when I was younger because I don't think we had any TV channels that were showcasing the InuYasha show series, and I think I was also too small when this was originally published and I wouldn't understand it anyway. And then later on, when I actually got into anime, I think I started to watch other shows and I just got into those and I didn't really explore any other series, so yeah, it just went kind of past me. But its style is very definitive of the style of 90s and zeros, and I decided that it would be a very interesting case for me to try and learn and study from, because anime from 90s, it looks very different from what it is right now. If you put one screenshot next to each other, or like art or whatever from 90s, and then something that's more modern, like past 2010, you'll clearly see which one is which. I think I have a few older mangas on my bookshelf, and the faces there look really alike with what is presented in InuYasha anime. Also Sailor Moon, for example, it's very iconic, so the faces from 90s is like iconic. You can never confuse it with anything else, truly. And I can't help myself but actually feel a little bit nostalgic to what it looks like, because it reminds me of my own very young childhood, and I have a few older friends than me that also are into anime, and they are very nostalgic about older anime. They're all saying that, oh, anime from 90s was much better than what it is right now, blah blah blah. I personally don't think so. I think both have a place to be, but yeah, older anime do feel a little bit kinder, and they're more infused with Japanese culture and like traditional vibes sort of thing, and their plots seem to be more childish from what I've seen more modernly. Like the shows, they are more meant for kids than that they're meant for like adults or family, because right now anime is very much diverse. From what I saw about animes from 90s, it's more like about shows that kids were watching before school or something. Like we were watching cartoons here in my country when I was small, and Japanese kids watching anime instead of cartoons because it's like cartoons for them. So that's why I think anime from 90s looks like kids show, and they are mostly like that, and they are kinder, and they're just different, I guess. But I really like how anime industry and everything regarding this developed over time, and I think it's like a very nice genre right now to get into. Like it has its own shows and categories and everything. Like, you know, there are movies for kids and movies for family-friendly audience, and then there are movies for adults mostly, and like horrors and stuff like that that are not meant for younger generations. But I think the same thing is with anime. So there are shows for kids, there are shows for teenagers, and there are shows for adults, and family-friendly and not really family-friendly, you know. So yeah, I think that's very cool, and it just show how contrast shows from 90s and more modern anime shows are, and I really think that's a cool thing to admire, as the style selection for kids show should be different than that are meant for like older audience, you know. So when I see a show or a manga that is drawn in style that InuYasha style is, I am sure that it is safe for a kid to look at mostly, even though I think I would still check out what plot is about and if there's nothing too, you know, hard for a kid to digest, but it still kind of gives away that it's a kids show, so it's safe, you know. And of course, I'm inviting you, if you have watched InuYasha or a lot of anime from 90s, you can come in the comments and share your experience and share your favorite shows and what you think about older shows and more modern shows. Maybe give us some titles that we should check out, perhaps. Maybe there is some hidden jewel that nobody really knows about, but it's drawn in original iconic 90s style and it's totally worth checking. Anyway, you know the drill. Drop your comments down below. I drew this sketch on a live on my TikTok, and I think I will do so more often in the future. So if you want to join me on this little style study journey, do subscribe on my social media so you will receive a notification wherever I'm going live, and we can chat, we can interact there, and we can have some fun. And I might also draw some quick little doodles for you on live and more this kind of fun stuff. So what I've noticed while working on this particular art style of the 90s anime is that they have very distinct proportions on the face, and their eyes are usually also very similar to each other from character to character. I really think that this makes it look very unique. So as usual, I'm starting with the sketch and I'm putting on firstly colors, because today I'm gonna work in mixed medium. I'm going to make a background with my acrylic paint pens, and the colors on the character I will fill with my alcohol-based markers because I'm kind of more comfortable with them, and they do kind of look like digital art, so they're easy to use for mimicking the actual anime style. So that is the first part of this project, and in part 2 I'm going to try to use the same medium for the coloring, but maybe with a little tweak for my own style. I have a reference here before me, so I'm just trying to copy paste the thing as close as possible and see how I can do that exactly. And after I'm done with the coloring, I will do some shading and then line art as a finishing touch. But yeah, today I had this rare occurrence of some glitch in my program, so it stopped recording for some reason and part of the video wasn't recorded. But literally after putting all the colors, I just went over my own sketch with my liners, and I did a rough lining first, and then I'm just repeating the same process but with the thinner liner and making like it look a little bit more polished, and I'm making lines a bit thicker where they are kind of forming an overlap or where the shadow could go, so it looks a little bit more voluminous, if that's a correct word to say. Anyway, I'm doing this pretty much in every video, so if you want to see how exactly I'm doing that, you can check out other videos on my channel. There is a little guilt, artistic guilt of mine that I'm not drawing male characters that often, so I will try to fix that in my future videos. And I've seen you guys offer me to draw some very handsome characters in some of the previous videos comment section, and I'm definitely looking into that, but I'm a little bit slow in producing stuff, so bear with me. There will be for sure requests that are fulfilled with a little bit of delay, but I'm still going to do that. Consider this InuYasha project as a starter point, because he's like one of the first male characters that I'm doing a fan art of on this channel, at least, if we don't count Kakashi Sensei, because he's my comfort character. Also, most of my original characters are females, so yeah. Also, another thing that I've noticed when I was doing my research on InuYasha anime and in general on the style from the 90s, I really like how they make an ambience, if that makes sense. So if you look at screenshots from older animes or like older shows, they all have this one thing in common that looks like a old filter. I'm not sure why is that, probably because of the production process or how they were making animation back then in the older studios, but it all looks so cozy for some reason. Like, they have added some noise filter. I'm not sure, but what is that exactly? But it really looks very distinctive and noticeable if you compare to nowadays modern animes. If you put like older screenshots, especially from the animes that have remakes, for example, Sailor Moon. If you look closely at the shots from older anime and newer anime, you will notice that newer anime looks much clearer and more saturated, if that makes sense. But the older one has this little oldness filter. I'm not sure how to explain it, but try to look at it like that. And when I was looking for a screenshot that I wanted to make this style study from, I also noticed the same thing. I think that looks very nice and makes the older shows look also appealing in this case. So next time you have a chance, check it out. Also, I have noticed that older shows more often represent traditional clothing and stuff like that, so it features more of Japanese culture in the anime. And nowadays shows are more about fantasy and some, I don't know, adventures, and I've seen a lot of shows that are actually made in other settings and other cultures and other everything. So yeah, older animes are more traditional Japanese vibe like and modern ones are more about everything else and like worldwide, if that makes sense. I actually wish that there were more shows that would feature traditional Japanese culture in modern animes. If you know shows like that, please drop the names in the comments so I can try and check them out and look for some inspiration, because the design of InuYasha's character, it features like traditional garments and they look really cool. And all the time travel and Shintoism and all the traditional culture stuff and demons and magical creatures and shrines and everything, it gives out the cool Japanese vibe that I like. I wish there was an anime something like this, but modern, because I just can't make myself to watch older animes. And working on this piece actually required me to use all my precision to catch the proportions of the face of InuYasha, and it was actually a little bit challenging but fun at the same time. So I'm glad I decided to style study this particular show and mangaka, and I'm really happy with what is coming out right now. And after finishing the line art, I decided to go back to the shading and add more contrast to the shades, because they kind of looked a little bit too bright and not too contrast. Maybe that's due to the medium that I'm using, but still I decided to go back and use a little bit darker marker to make it look more contrast. And after I added this extra layer of the shading, I think it looks more complete. So yeah, here is the final result. I think I learned a couple of tricks from this one, and maybe I'm going to adapt something to my main style, but we will see that in the next video, so stay tuned for part 2. I thank you for watching and joining me on the style study case, and don't forget to wash your cup, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.